Welcome to this session on isostasy. We would be understanding the concept of isostasy, the story behind isostasy and the various theories related to isostasy in this session. Now to begin with, before we start understanding the concept of isostasy, let's talk about something of the real world. So if we assume the world as a whole, we have volcanoes at one places, we have floods at another places, we have earthquakes at some other region. But more or less, I can say the dynamic equilibrium of the earth remains the same. I cannot say there are glaciers coming up every third day. There is an ocean body that is being generated another day. You don't see mountains growing in a couple of months. So what we can say is the dynamic equilibrium of the earth remains more or less the same, or I can say it tries to maintain a balance. So that is what is isostasy. So isostasy is derived from a Greek word which says iso plus status. Iso means equal, status means standing. So the first and the foremost thing to understand here is it is not a force, it is not a process. Then what is isostasy? Isostasy is simply maintaining the balance on the earth crust. So I can say, so whatever density or mass of an object is there, so that denotes density. We can also write it as mass per unit volume. That's for our future reference. So whatever the crust has, the mass or the density, despite of that, it tries to maintain an equilibrium. That equilibrium definitely is dynamic in nature, and the main aim is to maintain the balance of the earth crust. So that is in a very simple fashion what we say or what we understand about isostasy. Now what was the story behind the origin of isostasy? Isostasy never evolved as a concept of geography. Isostasy evolved was, I should say, it was an idea of one of the famous artists, Leonardo da Vinci. And what he explained was an interesting phenomena. He said, you have couple of mountains. These mountains erode. So I can say this mountain height changes to this, okay. So this mountain is eroding, so the mass of this mountain is getting less, so this should rise and there should be constant evolution of mountains by this process. This idea led people to think more about how the equilibrium is maintained. As a result, Condamine and Maupertuis did a lot of research on the shape of the earth, and they led to a conclusion that earth is not sphere in shape, rather it is oblate spheroid, that means it is flat towards the edges. Under this concept, his findings were very accurate, but he totally ignored the concept of mountains. When this concept was seen by Berger, he could not understand why there wasn't any error that was caused due to the mountains that exist. As a result, he tried to give a gravity anomaly and he tried to explain that there should be some impact of mountain, but he explained the concept of compensates that was later on propounded by Bosforich, who read in one of the statements of Berger and focused on compensate, and where he tried to say the mountains that look very massive are void from inside in order to maintain the total mass of the mountain. So that was the first thing that led to understanding the concept of isostasy and the origin of isostasy. Now, the second concept was deflection of vertical. Deflection of vertical was the result of one of the studies done on geodesy by G. Everest in India. He tried to measure the distance between Kalyana and Kalinapur, and under this study he found out certain deflection from the normal, and that angle of deflection he called it as deflection of the vertical. So this was the normal, supposed to be normal, and this was his findings, and this angle he called it as deflection of vertical. Now when Pratt came across this finding, he was not wholeheartedly convinced. He said, the Himalayan range that exists in India must have an impact. Because of the gravity of Himalayas, there should be deflection that is caused. As a result, he wrote a paper of around 75 pages where he mathematically tried to find out the various concepts which led or which explained the deflection of vertical. But Airy, who was an astronomer, more of an astronomer, in a summary of 3 pages explained this concept in very simple terms. He said that the region where there is, so this is the layer of crust, and the layer of below the layer of crust is a liquid mantle which is known as asthenosphere. This crust is usually thin, but supposedly this is a tableland or a mountain region which is there. So he assumed that in a region of tableland or mountain, whatever is above, whatever massive region looks above is balanced by a similar region below, and that this region displaces the heavy mantle from this side. So this was a concept that Airy tried to propound. Based on this concept, Airy gave his theory, which was basically focusing on uniformity of density or uniform density. So this was Airy's model. Under Airy's model, he tried to explain the density of all the blocks, for example, would be 2.6. So he said all the blocks have same density, but the mass of each block would be different. He also tried to explain whatever exists above the sea level, a certain portion proportional to that would exist below the sea level. So if this is the line I draw, I can see if this much is above, proportionally it would have a larger section that would be below that surface. So this was the basic concept that was propounded by Airy. However, Pratt was not convinced by what Airy said. He found out 3 shortcomings in Airy's model. One of the shortcomings was that Airy assumed thin crust, which always is not true according to Pratt. He also said that crust was less dense than the underlying lava. This assumption was also not considered true by Pratt. And third, he said that this is not in accordance to the contraction theory of Earth. Now, what does the contraction theory of Earth says? Contraction theory of Earth says the heavy material like iron sank into the center of the Earth. So that included iron, and the lighter material like aluminium remained on the surface. So that's lighter material. Based on this contraction concept, he also said that the mountains which exist are not as cool as the center. So this has cooled at a much faster pace as compared to the mountains. So that was what was covered under the contraction theory of Earth, and he said this concept what Airy propounded is not in accordance with the contraction theory. So what did Pratt did? Pratt tried to explain the compensation level. And how did he try to explain the compensation level? Under compensation level, the depth of compensation or the line of compensation, he explained that the compensating, that what we are trying to do is, we are trying to compensate excess volume with the less density. So for example, if you have this block of matter that I have, if I apply force on it and I compress it, suppose I have a slice of rubber and I compress it, so what would happen is it would go down. On the other hand, I have a spring. What can happen is it can go up, but in either case what is happening is I am keeping the mass constant. So my mass remains the constant. So my mass remains constant in either case. So based on this concept, he said there is a line of compensation that exists and that tries to explain the excess of matter or the deficiency of matter in any region. So what was Pratt's theory was, you have a line of compensation and that the blocks have same mass. So what he believed was mass remains constant, in contrast to Airy's model where he said the density remains constant. So this was Airy's model where he said density remains constant, and this was Pratt's model. So Pratt's model, as you can see, the center one would be lightest, so density would be least as compared to this, So higher the block mass, density would be lesser. So density would be highest for say features close to ocean, and density would be lowest for mountains. That was a summary of what Pratt tried to explain. The next thing that we would be trying to understand today is what is flexion. Now, as I explained before, you have a piece of rubber and you are applying pressure on a certain region. What is happening is, this is the point where pressure has been applied, so there is a kind of dent, and this dent can be explained as flexion. So what he said was, you have a load that is pushing the lithosphere from the top. So this is say the force exerted by say a plateau or a mountain. In reverse to it, you have a force that pushes it up, and that is the force of buoyancy. So what is happening? You have a force that is coming from up and bottom. So there is a kind of vertical compression, and this vertical compression leads to horizontal expansion. So that is how vertical development of land takes place. Now this was explained by Fisher, where he tried to apply Archimedes' principle, and he explained that equal amount of volume would be displaced when a load is when a fixed amount of load is given to a region. Then next came Dutton. The most important contribution of Dutton was that he coined the term isostasy per se. What he tried to explain was that equal surface areas that underlie must have equal masses on the top. So what he tried to say was, elevated masses have low density and depressed masses have high density. I could say Dutton's theory was an extension of Pratt's findings. The next theory that was important to understand was Higginson's model, and under this he tried to combine the concept of Airy and Pratt. He said 2/3 of the concept of Airy, he tried to include 2/3 of the concept of Airy and 1/3 of the concept of Pratt. Based on the two concepts, he tried to say that density varies both within the column and between the column. As a result, he tried to explain that density varies horizontally as well as vertically. So that was the basic essence of Higginson's theory, and he said higher density usually have shorter columns and that tries to spread out. The next was the model that was given by Hayford and Bowie. Now Hayford and Bowie under their study tried to elaborate the concept propounded by Pratt, and they established a kind of inverse relationship between height of the column and density, similar to what was propounded by Pratt. And they said the columns which are higher usually have lesser density as compared to shorter columns which have more density. So that was the findings that were led by Hayford and Bowie. The next came Joly's theory. Now Joly was an interesting person because what he tried to explain was, he said that Hayford and Bowie explained that there is a line of compensation that exists at a depth of around 113 kilometers below the Earth's surface. Now he said that if there is a line that exists 113 kilometers below the Earth's surface, that region should be having a very high temperature. Since that region has a high temperature, that region should be in a state of liquid. And if that region is in a state of liquid, I cannot say there is a line of compensation. So rather he propounded the concept of zone of compensation, and he said there is a zone which is around 10 miles thick, and that zone and that region he called as zone of compensation, which was a term which was propounded by Joly. Next to Joly came Holmes and Holmes. Holmes and Holmes again tried to support the concept that was propounded by Airy, but they introduced the concept of equal pressure. Now let's understand what was the findings and what was the concept of Holmes and Holmes. So A. Holmes and D.H. Holmes, they tried to say that equal columns can stand because they have much lighter material that exists below the depth as compared to a less dense material or a material which has less height. So he said there is equal weight along level of equal pressure. What does this mean? He tried to say that pressure is a product of density and the thickness of the rock. So in his theory, he took examples from 4 regions, which one was a plateau which was 4 kilometers, another was a plateau of 1 kilometer, he took a plain region, and another was an ocean region which was 5 kilometers deep. Now what was his statement? So on the left hand side he took the thickness, on the right hand side he marked the density. So this is thickness, this is density, thickness versus density for all the cases. He said the density of core in all the cases remains same, that's 2.8, and then you have mantle which have a different density here. So what he tried to explain was, this region at the bottom of all these you have an equal section, and he tried to explain this was the region of equal pressure, and this pressure was calculated as a product of density by the thickness of each region, and he calculated it. So it came around 151, 150. So it was more or less similar for all the 4 cases. So based on this, Holmes tried to explain the concept of equal pressure. So with this, we cover the basic theories in isostasy and the concept of isostasy. We would be covering the concept of Wegener's continental drift in the further class. You can subscribe to Exam Race channel for any further updates. Till then, have a good day.